This is Alice Springs. It's virtually the centre of Australia. To my right is Brisbane. To my left is Perth. Behind me, Adelaide, and straight ahead, Darwin. Now, I've come here to investigate a mystery that is central to understanding Australian identity. It's a mystery about bloody frontier conflict and modern reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. This is William George Murray and his war service record. In 1967, Murray asked the government to send him his Anzac Medal, a medal that was struck in 1965 on the 50th anniversary of Gallipoli and sent to the few surviving diggers from that campaign. If he were alive today, we would fate him as a hero, a special Australian, one who helped create our nation and one who embodied the qualities that we try to live up to today. Young people like you go to Gallipoli each year on Anzac Day and remember and honour people like William George Murray. But what does he have to do with our mystery? This memorial is in Warlpiri country. Now, the Warlpiri people are desert people, and I know that they've lived here for some 60,000 years. I also know that their first contact with Europeans was in 1862, but really I don't know much more than that. And that's why I have with me today Teresa Naprala Ross, and she's a Warlpiri person, and she's going to tell us something about her land, about her people, and hopefully you're going to help us try and solve this mystery.
There was lots of people, Warlpiri people, Majara people, Kaidiji people and Warramunga people living all around this area until one white fella named Frederick Brooks. He was a dingo trapper. He came here and he was living here amongst all the Aboriginal people. He was really good friend with the Aboriginal people, and they shared things together like food and weapons and all that. Until one day, Frederick Brooks, the dingo trapper, asked Chamulyarpa Chapananga, he is known as Fullbrook, asked him for his wife in exchange for tobacco and flour. Then Bullfrog Chapananga gave Frederick his wife just for one night. They made an agreement for Fred to have his wife just for one night only, but Fred didn't return her back next day. He kept her. And that's when Bullfrog got really upset and really angry, and then walked over to him. He walked over to Frederick Brooks with another fella belonging to Bullfrog's wife's uncle. They walked over and grabbed Frederick Brooks. They grabbed him, and even Bullfrog's wife grabbed him as well, and Bullfrog struck him in the head and cut him in the throat with a stone axe. And that was the end of Frederick Brooks.
Was this a traditional custom? I mean, was this in the law of the time and the culture?
In Aboriginal law and culture, you're not allowed to take a man's wife.
Yeah. Can you tell me why this memorial is here and how significant it is?
The reason why this memorial is here is for us to remember the people, the Warlpiri people and the Kaidiji people and Majara people. About 60 of them got killed here.
Now, can you tell me why they were killed and how was that related to what happened to Brooks?
The reason why they got killed is because the person that killed Frederick Brooks, he already took off. He was already out in the bush hiding away. And the police from Alice Springs came over here on horses. And without asking those people, they just started shooting them everywhere. In my language, it says, in Warlpiri, it means we will always remember them, always, forever, we will always remember them.
So this memorial commemorates the Coniston Massacre. It was placed here in 2003, 75 years after the killings, and it records both the deaths of the Aboriginal people and a move towards reconciliation between the families of the victims and some family of the police. And what of William George Murray, the Anzac hero? Well, he was the local policeman based at Barrow Creek, and the leader of the police parties that killed at least 31 Aboriginal men, women and children. And as Teresa suggested, there were probably a lot more deaths that were not recorded. So we have a mystery. And the mystery is about frontier conflict in a very remote part of Australia. And the question you need to investigate is, how could those mass killings have occurred here at that time? Well, one of our first clues is this gravestone of 1928. Now, we've heard from Teresa Naparula Ross the circumstances of the conflict between Bullfrog and Brooks, and she's told us quite clearly what happened to Brooks. We've also visited the gravesite, but now we're at the National Museum of Australia, to be more specific, in the storage area of the National Museum, and I have Peter Thorley, curator, with me, and I'm going to ask Peter to try and tell me how these objects help me to understand this mystery and something about the violence that occurs on the frontier.
These are stone knives that were part of the arsenal that was used by Aboriginal people in their conflict with the settlers in the 1920s in Central Australia. These came from a quarry not that far from Coniston, and in the various accounts that were given of how Brooks was murdered, his throat was cut with a stone knife. The other weapon that was part of the Aboriginal arsenal was a boomerang. Now, this is typical of the types of boomerangs that were used in that country in the 1920s. This was quite possibly the type of weapon that was used to kill Fred Brooks by Bullfrog. Although these objects, knives and boomerangs, were part of the arsenal used by Aboriginal people, and they were quite willing to use them against settlers, the inferiority of that technology meant that they stood little chance against these kinds of weapons, rifles, that the technology that was available to the settlers in the 1920s.
I'm here at Barrow Creek, and this is where William Murray was based as a policeman. Now, you can imagine each day he would pass by this gravesite, and occasionally, I guess, he would read the stone that's here, and it says, "In memory of the station master and also a linesman, killed by natives." Perhaps this affected his notion of justice. Perhaps he developed a mindset which was antagonistic towards our Indigenous population. And of course, we can only speculate also about the attitude of Aboriginal people from the area towards Murray and the other occupiers who had in fact taken their lands, and in some cases violated Aboriginal laws. Many people were shocked when they heard about the killings, and a board of inquiry was set up to investigate. This is the old telegraph station here at Alice Springs, and the board convened somewhere near here. It found Murray was not guilty of murder, and that the killing of the Aboriginal people was justified in the circumstances. Was that a fair process? Well, that's for you to investigate. Murray walked away a free man. He continued as a policeman, and as you know, in 1967, he made claim to his Hero's Medal. Now, after the killings, Teresa, what happened to Bullfrog? Was he ever taken into custody? How did he spend the rest of his life?
Straight after Bullfrog killed Frederick Brooks, he took off. He knew that someone was going to come after him.
Yeah.
After he took off, he didn't use the creek or anything to walk along. He's been walking on the hills all the way, so no trackers could track him. So, and then he found this cave. He hid here with his dog, maybe for a few weeks. Bullfrog met up with his wife. They went to Mandanison. From Mandanison, they went back to Yundamu, and there they lived together.
They stayed together?
As if nothing happened.
What do you, as a descendant of these people, think of Bullfrog? What's your opinion of Bullfrog today?
I think of him as a hero, a coward, and a murderer. That's the three things that I think of him.
So, why is he a coward?
Because he killed Fredericks and he ran away. He should have just waited around for the police to catch him. Yeah, and got every other Walbury and Mudgett and Kaidiji people killed Yeah.
Why is he a hero?
Because they didn't catch him. They didn't find him. He died in Indigenous in the 1970s, yeah. That's when I was about 2 or 3 years old.
Now, that's just an outline of the story. The mystery is to find out what actually happened at that particular time, involving those people in this place. Was William Murray justified in killing so many Aboriginal men, women and children? And what about Bullfrog? What was his role in the event? And will you regard him as a villain, a victim, or perhaps both? And you'll find out more about human nature, the conflict of customs and culture, the harshness of pioneer life, the complexities of history, why we sometimes claim the things that are good and yet deny the things that are bad. And you'll find out more about the echoes and the impacts of the past and the influence that they have on our lives today.